And hello, let's wait a little bit until others join us and then we'll start. So, okay, I guess we can start. Hello everyone, it's nice to see you all back after a little break since last Thursday. So as I mentioned last time, we are approaching the end of the course. So the 20th of September will be the last day, yeah, and on this day you will have the presentation on the project work you will be doing next 2 weeks. And the plan is that so first of all you need to split in pairs, yeah, as I mentioned last time. So just I can give you the time until next Monday, so you can find the pair. In case you do not find, then I will just randomly mix the remaining pairs. So, and yeah, if you want to just join with on your own, yeah, I guess if you want to work alone, that's also fine. I mean, I have nothing against that. Um, I mean, since this is the work in pairs, I guess that would be fine. So, I mean, on practice, there is no much difference if you work in pair or just alone. Yeah. So if you want, you can also do it on your own. So since here we won't have the work in groups of 5, I mean, on practice, it's maybe significant importance if we work in group in 5, but if the group is just in pair, then I guess that's not the problem if you want to work alone. Yes, since we won't have yeah, the thing what is needed but not in this project is the project work. Yeah, so it means that there is the organization in groups. Yeah, but since so just only in pairs, there is not much difference. Yeah, yeah. Just in case you want to work on your own, you can then do it. So yeah, then I can register Elena then as the first group. So and then for other groups, please let me know publicly or just write me in chat if you have your group or maybe you want to work alone. That's also fine. So let me know until Monday, and if not, then if you don't find the pair or you just don't decide, then I'll mix the pairs randomly. Okay, so that's the plan, and the task will be, hold on, oh yeah, I guess yeah, the microphone's working. Yeah, then so for each group you would need to select the task you want to do, so that's also up to you to decide. You can also go with your own idea, so just any game you want to implement, you can briefly do it. Yeah, so that will be just usual usual game. Yeah, maybe the cards, maybe cows and bulls. Yeah, I guess so. I don't remember what are the rules of this game, but yeah, there is the game. Yeah, I don't remember about the rules, but so that's up to you to decide. Yeah. But yeah, that's the game, and I guess the previous course did implement, one of the groups did implement this. But yeah, so you have to select one of these options. Yeah, so maybe I can also share them in chat. Just so each group, please select one of these options. Yeah, so that's the plan. So one of the groups registered, and yeah, then let me know. Let me know then again you can decide it until let's say Monday. So I guess that will be fine. So and then you can proceed with them. Then you can start. Then you can start working on the project. I mean, so here is like mostly freestyle. You need to just use all the knowledge you got during this course. I mean, if you use even more, then that's also fine. Just any skill you can apply, you can briefly do it in this project work. Yeah, about interface. So about the front end. So we in this course we don't have much talking about front end. This is maybe more not more advanced, but that's just other topic what we have. But in case you want and in case you can, so you can also use some front end options as well there. Just maybe application or some kind of visualization. So during these 2 weeks, let's see how it is from the time perspective for us. Now we will go through the database, and then we will have the project, uh, the topics about the project work. I mean, just the organization of the project work, and then maybe we will have a little bit of time. Then we can discuss some front-end implementation as well. But I mean, it just that's if you can, if you want, you can do it, but nothing special there. Yeah. So just if you use console, that will be fine. Because because not sure about this .NET course, but I guess yeah, in the next so just in the next level of this course, that there should be definitely front-end development with HTML, JavaScript, CSS. So I mean, that's maybe more advanced course. But yeah, if you but yeah, but yeah, as I said, any freestyle is welcomed. So in case you know something more, what we learned, that's also good. Just show show everything you want. Yeah, that's not something like you must do this or this, or you you need to show this skill or another skill. No, that's just as much as you can. So please then do it. And yeah, so then you will work in project with this project, and yeah, at the end on Monday, 20th of September, there will be the final presentation. Don't worry, there should be no pressure, no pressure. Yeah, on the last presentation, that will be just you simply show what you can, what you've done, and it should be fine. And how basically describe how the project was organized, how you organized your work in the project there, and that's it. So you should there should be no pressure. Yeah, and that's the task. Do you have any questions about it? Yeah, sure. Any questions? Any groups you have? Just any wishes? Any comments? Yeah. Welcome to ask. If you want, you can select any game and see questions coming. Yeah, sure. Mm-hmm. Is there gonna be great in the end of? No, yeah, don't worry. There won't be any great. Yeah, no, that's just just to show that everything is fine, that you you can do it, and no, there won't be any grade. Don't worry. So there will be the final presentation. There, hope this time, uh, hope this time there will be the representatives from Accenture, I guess. I hope they will present this time, because last time, last time. Okay, okay, maybe last time that was quite a strange experience. But yeah, so yeah, I will discuss with Sanda. So then there should also be about this final presentation. There will be there will be I guess two representatives from Accenture. Normally there are two, and they will also be there. Don't worry, they will not criticize you. They will not grade you. They will just simply take a look on what you know and what did we do during these months, and so they will just simply present and represent they'll present a presentation, and they will be there and they will see what you basically done. Yeah, the question from Eva: will the final presentation will be online or we will meet? Uh, that's the good question. To be honest, I don't. I'm pretty sure that will be online. About if we can meet or not, I guess during because of all these restrictions, who I'm pretty sure we won. But so just I have no idea. I have no idea about if there is any possibility we can meet in place. I mean, just if so, if anyone has these green certificates, then it's fine. It's definitely fine for me. But but yes, so about meeting together, I haven't heard anything from Zandi about this. Because previously we normally presented online, and I guess this time it will also be online. But I will then double check with Zanda. In case it is not online, then Zanda and I will let you know. But I'm mostly sure it will be online. The question from Mari: do we need to have all the home tasks done? The home tasks mostly for you, I guess. I'm not. I guess. I mean, in this case, we don't have like certificated grades here. Yeah, I mean that's mostly for home tasks are mostly for you. I can check them, and at this point we won't have lots of home tasks since now I guess we won't have any home tasks except the last one I mentioned. So this is about the data structures. Yeah. So that will be, I guess, that will be the last home task since we have not much time left. So that's so just home task is mostly for you, and since now we will mostly, I mean, I will let you mostly focus on the final project. So we will go through the remaining topics. I will also, we actually already talked about the exception handling, but just we can maybe handle also a little bit more there because I really like this topic, and the exception handling is the topic you will definitely see in all the programming languages, yeah, in all the possible programming languages, and yeah, then we will cover this topic as well. And another question: if we are working in pairs, how many people should present the game? Yeah, it's a good question. So again, you can present by yourself. I mean, there can be one people who, I mean, you can present together. So just split the presentation. It's fine, and usually it is split. Just everyone just says what is done by, basically what he or she done there. Basically she, what is done there, yeah, so how the work was split, and also describe what was done. But I mean, that's also up to you, yeah, but please mention what every student then did in this project work, yeah, so how the work was split then. So that should be mentioned. And about if you want to present alone, that's also fine. Yeah. So it's not mandatory that, but preferably you can present together. That's just to see that everyone is everyone presents, everyone is in place, and everyone participated there. But that's mostly up to you to decide the organization of the final presentation. So no strict limits there. Yeah, more questions? Another, how to measure how complex a project could be? Well, that's I mean, so how complex? The complexity, it's up to you. I mean, as much as you can do. There's no limitations. At the end, you will the final presentation, you will show the code. Also, that would be great if you explain what your code does. I mean, how your code works. Just others can see that you do understand what actually the code means, how does it work, and that you have the understanding about it. And so that should also be then described. Yeah. So that is about the organization. Yeah, but regarding if we have it on place, I guess what I heard from some and vendors that they don't want to to make any events, any lesson, any event in place. Yes, so everything should be online. So during this year, I worked in as the teacher in Shigos Tech. Then I met my students only once. Yeah, we had the event last year in summer, so that was actually the only time I met anyone in person. Yeah, I mean, I met anyone in place. Yeah, but all the other meetings and events were online. So that's why because of the situation we currently have with COVID cases in Latvia, I'm worried if we have such option. But okay, let's see. That's maybe not the major question now. Yeah. So if there are no questions, I hope then it's clear, and then please let me know the groups you have done. Yeah. Okay, so then it's good, and so we can proceed next. So today and tomorrow, most likely, yeah, we will continue talking about the databases, yeah, because previously we covered, as I mentioned last time, previously we covered almost all the main topics in the concepts of programming. Yeah, so the object-oriented programming was covered, and all the subparts of object-oriented programming were covered as well. Yeah, the collections, and actually, yeah, there are more concepts to learn about, but these are the main ones, and we practically covered them all. And the next step is that, as I said, we go to more applicationable level. So that's more which is related with the real, not actually to connect our code, what we write, with the real world, and this real world is on practice is usually stored in the databases. Yeah, so we have most of or all the data, all the customer data, just any data. What we have is stored in the databases, and then we should then be able to connect our code with the database, and then to proceed with the corresponding queries. Yeah, and so basically here we will mostly work with, not mostly in this case, we'll work only with SQL, with MySQL databases, and the thing here is that yeah, it is primarily based on SQL language, so that's querying language, and that's, as I mentioned last time, not just simple programming language, that's the querying language. So this, comparing to what we have in our C# code, yeah, we have the branching, we have the classes, we have like many different procedures there. In SQL, the main thing is that we simply ask the database to do this, do that, and just get this entry, get that entry, update that entry, insert another entry, and so on. Yeah, so this is important thing to understand, and it usually means that, and on practice, that you won't really be able to create some kind of complicated, advanced logic with SQL. Yeah, that on practice that won't really be possible. Actually, there are some cases when you can write complicated logic in SQL, but normally the statements should not be really complicated. Yeah. So yeah. So it means that you actually have database. The database should be stored on server. So the server, it actually means the computer. So on for your local tasks, and we'll see today what you can do. You can simply use your own computer as the server. Yeah, as the server where the database can be placed. So this is when we talk about MySQL. Then we haven't talked about yet, but so we also cover this topic during the next 2 weeks. Is about file reading and writing. So in fact, you can simply use the files as the database. Yeah, so it means that you can simply have, let's say, maybe one CSV or one with Excel files will be more complicated, but let's say that's that CSV or XML file or JSON file you can use to store the data there, and then just use it as the database. Yeah, so in fact you can use the simple CSV Excel file or XML file as your database. That's also possible. Obviously, it won't be MySQL database, but it will still can be considered as the database as well. Yeah, so that's the point. And but yeah, so if you work with your local tasks, then the database server may be your own computer. And I mean, on practice, if it's like maybe some kind of website, yeah, shared by by many people just use the public domain, and or it's the application or whatever it is, then in such cases there should be the remote server, the server which can be accessed by not only by your computer but also by other computers. Okay, it should be connected to a network and should be shared via network, and so on and so on. Yeah, so in practice you may see some, if you're interested, you can see some public hostings, where you can host your, let's say, application, website, or whatever it is, and then the database can also be stored there. So yeah, and when you have the database, you have this MySQL database, so then you can start working. And then what you can do, so everything what you can do using the SQL queries. Yeah? SQL queries, scripting queries, and so here we can go through some SQL queries there. Yeah, I mean, first we should have the database, that's the first thing. Then the second thing, for each database we have the database table stored there where the actual data is stored. Yeah, so many tables can be linked. Usually, as I mentioned last time, you may see the situations when one table is used for just technical details, yeah, like IDs, some key numbers, some key numbers and technical numbers, and then the other table may be used as the text table. Yes, so for example, that would be just a simple example. We have a table of persons, then each person is identified with using the unique personal ID. Yeah, so that would be the number, and then maybe also the year, just maybe birth year, so whatever, just maybe some kind of grouping there and so on, and then there can be another table which would be the text table, and then you have the linkage to this technical table, and then the ID can be linked with the text where the actual, for example, name and surname is stored. So usually we separate the text tables and the technical tables because of the memory and also performance. Yeah, mostly because of the memory reasons. Yeah, because the text data is heavy data from the database perspective, and just imagine that if you have the millions of entries, then let's say that the database needs to store all the text is there. Of course, that won't be really easy to do. Yeah, okay, maybe name surname is not the heaviest thing, but let's say that you may have some kind of comments or messages, then that would be several lines of code, and just let's imagine that you have just maybe billions, okay, maybe not billions, but hundreds of millions of entries with the texts, multi-line texts there. Of course, that may be quite heavy. Yeah, that's why we usually separate the data in between the tables, and then we have the linkages. Yeah, the linkages is considered as the constraints, as part of the constraints, and that will be the foreign key. Yeah, so that means that one table is linked with other table using foreign key, so it means that we have them filled, which has some kind of value. Then this value should then be stored in just another table from where this value is taken. Yeah, and so on. And yeah, also we have the primary key I mentioned. That's also really important, and that's the unique key of the entry of the row, and it means that it cannot be duplicated. Yeah, so if we have one primary key maintained, then another row cannot have the same value for this exact primary key. In this case, the primary key, as you can see from this picture, is one column, but on practice that can also be the chain of columns, so it means that can be multiple columns multiple columns defined as one primary key. So in that case, it will just simply mean that the sequence of these columns would be considered as the primary key, as one primary key. Yeah, practice how it is stored and used. So it's quite simple. Yeah, the thing is that when we have multiple columns as one primary key, then it simply means that we concatenate all these columns. So in fact, let's say that for one, let's say that if we have, let's say that here we have the primary key, employee, employee name, and job. Yeah, so these three columns. Yeah, so let's imagine that these three columns make the primary key. So in that case, each row, actually each primary key would be concatenated from these three values. And one important thing to understand here, so when I say concatenation, it means that there should be some kind of limit. Yeah, because otherwise, if we say that there is some free text, yeah, without any limitations in between, that the primary key can have endless, in theory, can have an endless length, which is not possible. Yeah, the length of the primary key should be limited. That's also one important thing, just in case you create the database table. So yeah, you should know that you need to have it limited. And yeah, so as I already mentioned, for each database column, you will have the data type. And the data type, so most populars are integers and varchar, yeah, dates, timestamps, and varchars. Yeah, so varchar, it means that the simple sequence of characters, and then you can define the length of this sequence, so the length should be defined, and yeah, so then you have a column with the sequence of characters. Free text is also possible. I mean, string as the text can also be. Text column can also be created and used. However, it cannot be used as. First of all, it cannot be used as the key, as I just already mentioned, since the keys must have the limits. And secondly, it also depends on the version of the database, because some database have some limitations which do not allow to store endless number of characters, but it depends on the databases, and maybe let's not deeply focus on this, because it depends on the settings and characteristics of the database and the version of the database. But yeah, so in fact, everything can be done using, yeah, once we have the database, we have the server, we can start creating the tables. Yeah, by the way, in case you have any questions, please let me know. And so once we have the database, we can start creating the tables. Yeah, and yeah, in fact, we can also create the database separately, and everything is done using the SQL queries. Yeah, so we can create the table, we can create the database, we can add the characteristics of the database, add some restrictions on the database and database tables using SQL queries. Yeah, so this is the example how we can create the table using SQL query, and yeah, in fact, everything is done using these SQL queries. So, that may look a little bit complicated, just because you need to know SQL to write these queries. However, you will see that we can use the interface, yeah, the actual interface, front-end interface, where we can just simply press some buttons we want and fill in some input fields, and then by pressing the buttons we can do almost everything what can be done using SQL. Yeah, so and today we will use PHP MyAdmin. So this is the actual interface from where you can control the databases, the structure of the databases and their content without, actually you can also write the SQL queries, but for the most part can also be done without writing SQL queries by yourself. So yeah, and as I just said, all the actions can be done using the SQL queries. So for example, we may create the table, and then enter some entries. Oh no, in this case we do not enter any entries. We can just simply call the method describe customers, and then this will show the result of the table structure. And yeah, one more thing about auto increment. So as I said, there should be unique, I mean, not mandatory, there should be, but mostly you'll see that there will be primary key, and the primary key may be set as not null. Yeah, so null means that this can be just empty entry. Yeah, the entry without any value, not entry, but the field without any value there. Yeah, and the primary key can not be null. Yeah, and it actually, but yeah, so let's say that you simply enter the entries one by one, and so it doesn't really make sense that you should then generate the IDs by yourself. It can actually be done by SQL itself. So, and this is how we can use auto increment. So it simply means that when we insert a new entry to the database, then we will see the entry with the ID, which will be simply auto incremented from the previous one. Yeah, so in case the last entry is 7, then the next entry will be 8. Yeah, and you don't need to provide it by yourself. It will automatically be generated then there. Yeah, so that's the point. And yeah, so using describe you can see what the structure of the table is. Then yeah, then we can also call such script where we add customer address. So that means that we add one more field to the table. And so we can also, using SQL queries, we can also add another field to the table. And the field was the parameters. So you can see that using the queries we can do it. Yeah, so also we can modify the existing fields, and so and provide the provide the characteristics there. So yeah, then delete the column also can be done. Rename, yeah, so provide the name of the existing column, then the new name to rename, and yeah, so then we will do some modification. So this is about the structure of the database tables. We will I'll later on show you in practice how it works. And so we'll see such example. Do you have any questions so far? Okay. And then the last thing is actually the thing that usually the students are not really sure about. They are a little bit confused and they do not really understand this. Yeah, previously I had such example that it took a little bit long time when before the students did understand that what is this, what is transaction, yeah, what is transaction and how this works. Yeah, so as I said, one thing, as I mentioned during the previous sessions, to work with the database. I mean, when your website or application or whatever it is, when you work with the database, then it may be quite significant and let's say heavy from performance point of view action when you call the SQL query on database from your program. Because usually there are lots of data in your database, then to select the entries from there, to modify, to do some adjustments, it takes some time for the program. Yeah, it cannot just simply be done in one second. I mean, one just second, but I mean in a short time. And usually it is quite heavy operation, and then we need to find some ways how can we make it faster, better, and more efficient. And for this we can use transaction. And what's the case? The case actually is when we do the modification on the database. Yeah? So let's say that you have the database and then you maybe create new entries there. You make some adjustments and so on. Yeah, so you actually change the content of the database, if it's the data or the structure. It depends. So, and in this case, the thing is what happens when you do the update. Yeah, so your logic does the update, like if this happens to this, if another thing happens to that. Yeah, so you already done some actions with the database. Yeah, you did some modification. Let's say change the entry, you change the structure, you insert new entry, you delete the entry, whatever you want, and then after some steps, not you but your program realizes that the changes should be reverted back. Yeah, so just like let's say you have the branch of your program. If this happens to this, if then next step would be that if case 2 happens to that, if case C happens to that, and then if case D happens, then revert everything back and just make everything as it was before. Yeah, so that can excuse me, that can also be done because of some errors. Yeah, let's say that you do modifications and then at one point you have a crucial error in your program, critical error in your program, and then just everything needs to be reverted back as it was at the beginning. So, and how to deal with such cases? Okay, you can, but yeah, let's say that you want to roll back. So what can be the options? Options would be that you need to repeat all the queries, I mean in the opposite direction by yourself. Yeah, like to write a program to revert back the adjustments. So that can be possible, but this is maybe not so efficient. Yeah, because in that case you would need to then store the data somewhere, the data you want to modify, or you want to delete, or whatever you want to do with it. Yeah, so in that case you need to have additional storage for this data. Then you need to have additional logic for this data for the changes to be reverted back. So it's not quite efficient. That is quite long, and this is not what we want to do. So in such cases, for the database, we have such option that all the actions we actually do using the transactions. So it means that transaction started, so I do all my steps, step 1, step 2, step 3, and so on. Yeah, so I do the changes there in the database, I do the changes there, I do the modification, and so on and so on and so on. So then at the end, or maybe also in the middle, I want to decide. So do I want my changes to be saved and committed? in the actual database, or I need to revert them all back. So in this case, we can use two options. Yeah, so once the transaction is started, we have two options. We have the option to commit, and we have the option to roll back. So in case we commit, it means that we accept all the changes we done. So we save them all, and there is no way we can roll back the changes after. Yeah, so that's the crucial save point. After that, we won't be able to do any modifications. Here, on the other hand, we have rollback. So in this case, it will revert back all the changes we done during the transaction. So transaction started, we did operation 1, we did operation 2, then we call rollback. Means that all the actions done in operation 1 and operation 2 won't be applied to the actual database. And so the database will go to the state it was before. Yeah. So that's the point about the transactions. Do you have any questions? So do you understand this concept? Because on practice, this is when you work with the data. On practice, this is quite crucial and quite important concept to understand. Yeah, because on practice, I mean, it is used almost everywhere. Yeah, because usually we may have some errors to occur in between. I mean, during the execution of the program. But then we may have also some additional issues, some data issues. So all these things need to be controlled and reverted back then if something goes wrong. So do you have any questions about this concept? Okay, then if not, we can move on. We'll see examples when we write the actual code. So, and now let's take a look on how can we, what kind of the queries can we call to then do some modifications with the database. So first of all, yeah, to insert the data, you will need to use insert query. So that will be insert into, then the table name, then the names of the fields, and then the values. Yeah. So then the values will be maintained in the way how in the sequence how we define the columns here. So it means that we have the sequence 1, 2, 3, 4. It means that the first place should be so right here for the values. The first value we provide here, that will be maintained as first name, as the first one. Okay. So then the second one will be maintained as the last name, as the second column here, then the third one as the third one, and the fourth one as the fourth. Yeah, so the sequence here and the sequence here should match the sequence there. So once we execute this query, then the entries will be entered into the database. So that's about insert query. So the next one is select query. Select query means that we actually select the entries from the database, and you will see the star. So the star means that we select all the columns, because on practice we may need to select just a few columns or even more one column. Yeah, so that would also be possible. And yeah, this is also important for different databases, because some database tables are stored by columns, and some database tables are stored by rows. Yeah, so mostly you will see that the storage is row-based, but in some cases there can also be column-based storage. So maybe I'll not really go deep the difference is there, but from the time perspective, it may be really different if you select the column or the entry. So it also depends. Yeah, it depends there, and yeah. So, but if you start, you select all the columns from there. Okay. So, do you have any questions about these two queries? Okay. If no questions, we can move on. And I will execute all these examples, so we will see how it works. So yeah, then we can add more entries. Yeah, so then we can call more insert queries, and then the syntax would be the same. So then the syntax would be the same. And yeah, so, and then when we select, we get the corresponding results. Okay. So, and then in case we want to change the content of the rows which already exist, there we can call the update query, and in this case we can say what table we want to update, and then we set the values for the corresponding fields there. And also we need to provide where statement. So where statement means the filtering on the values, yeah, because for the update, in this case, that would update the row where ID is 1. Yeah, so all the other rows will be untouched there. Yeah. So in this case, we see that the value for email is changed to a different one. Then we can also delete the entries. So in that case, we'll need to call deletion query. So that we delete from table name, and again provide the condition. Yeah, we'll also see that we can write the conditions, actually different advanced conditions. They're using AND OR statements, so the same way as we use in branching in C#. So there you'll see that we can also use the logical operators there. And yeah, so here we delete. So the syntax is that we delete from database table name and the condition which row to delete. Yeah, in case we don't provide condition, then all the rows should be deleted then. Then we can also have the selection query, and on practice this may be quite relevant when we need to join multiple tables. So in that case, we would need to call. Yeah, first we need to create the table, and then we may need to create a foreign key. In this case, we don't have any foreign key defined, but the thing is that, okay, then we can describe the table. So let's say that the table is created. Then we can select the entries from there. Yeah, so we insert the entries, then we can select the entries. So in this case, that is the same. And yeah, so in fact, we can also have inner join or just simple joining the tables. So that can also be done during the selection. But so normal selection, the syntax would be the following. So first we provide the column names. So it means star in case we need to select all the columns. So then we'll have select star. From, we need to provide the table name. And then we have where condition. So where condition is actually the filter on the conditions. Yeah, the filter on the columns, on the values of the columns. So that let's say that, like in this case, we have where ID equals something. Where was it? here we have where ID equals something. We can apply more conditions, like so let's say phone equals just whatever it is. So in this case we use just single equals, and that will be used as comparison. So, and so then we can use these statements in where conditions, and then we can use some additional statements grouped by, so that is maybe more complicated. So we'll not really go deep for now. That means that the operations should be applied on the groups. So that's more related to some kind of advanced queries. Maybe we'll not go deep here. Also having that's also quite advanced thing. Maybe also not good, but ordered by, that's the sorting. So quite important keywords to use. And in case you want to sort your entries, then that can be done using order by, and then you provide the column name. Yeah, and here you can see the operators we can use when we write where conditions. Yeah, so that can be I guess there's a mistake. It should be equals. Yeah, equal to, that's equals, not plus. Then greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, between. So here we can mention two values. And so the range, then we can create the range. So in case we have the list of values, then we can use in is null, and check if the value of the column is not filled. So that's null. Like to match the pattern. So yeah, and then also we can mix statements using and or of course not. Then that would be the exclusive exclusion of the selection there. Do you have any questions about the pattern? So don't worry, we will, after the presentation, we will go through these queries on practice. Okay, yeah. Questions? Please see my statement. In that case, yeah. In that case, between 3 and 5, that will be, yeah. So that's also fine. That's also, it just simply means that the value is between 3 and 5. In fact, between is actually the same as if you say like between 3 and 5. That would actually be the same if you have the statement. It is. No, in this case, Marie, in your case, that would also be, if I'm not mistaken, also it will be 3 and 5. Yeah, so it means that they will also be included. But I mean, on practice, between can be simply replaced with, like in your case, that would be greater or equal to 3 and less or equal than 5. So that would be the same as between. You can see that's included. Yeah, so that is this case, but yeah, between maybe not so popular. I would say that we can simply replace it, but that's up to you. Between can also be used in case you want to use the range for the value, but again, that can be also written using greater than or equal to or less than or equal to. Okay. So that will be the same case. Okay, so let's take a look on how the select statement would be. So we can select all. Yes, star means that we select all. We can also select count, and then place the star. That would be that would be like this. That would be that we select the number of the rows. So that would also be possible to do. And then we can provide the columns separately, because in some cases we don't need to select all the columns. As I said, and on practice, if you don't need the column, like don't select the columns, you don't need. So on practice, that would also be a nice thing to do, just because of the memory and performance, questions there. So we can also use concatenate. In that case, we would actually form the result. Yeah, we can actually write some logic on the result, so we can do some kind of simple logic like concatenation, or it can also be some if-else statements. We'll maybe take a look on them a little bit later. So in that case, you can construct your value. So one of the options would also be that you use concat. Concat means you concatenate the values, and then you don't simply select multiple columns, but just one concatenated value, and then you use as to then define the name of this column, which will then be returned. So in this case, you can see that the customer name is returned as the column name. Yeah, so that's the actual new column we select. It is not defined in the database table, but it can be then defined in the selection. And then, yeah, in this case, it's not quite flexible from the perspective that we don't we actually need to then not split, but separate the components let's say with space in between. So that's maybe not as simple as we can do it in programming. So in this case, we need to first we need to concatenate the space with the field we want to concatenate, and then only after that we can concatenate two words and then separate them then it will be separated by space. Yeah, so that is more tricky way to write, but that is how SQL works. Yeah, so then we can use where statements. So here we use the filtering on the conditions. So like let's say that if we have some kind of value, total amount 10, 15, 20, then if we apply condition the total amount is less than 15, then only the first row will be selected. Then, yeah. So yeah, then we can use between something and something, then it will, as I said, it will use the range. And yeah, actually the range in this case is maybe mostly about dates. Yes, to be more safe with the dates, we can use between. And here we provide the range then. Yeah. But between, it's used for the filtering. Yeah, so maybe, I guess, maybe Mario thought that that's for the values, that's for the filtering. Yeah, so that's for the column filtering, and it is used in where condition. Where conditions are used for the filtering. For the filtering to find the right entry we are looking for. Yeah. So, do you have any questions so far? Yeah, and then we can use order by, as I said, then we can sort the entries. That means that the selected entries will be sorted. We can also provide the information if we want to order them ascending or descending direction. That can also be provided there. So, and then the last thing what I want to discuss here is, as I already mentioned, we can join multiple tables. So we can select from multiple tables there. And how to do it? So first of all, the start is the same. However, on the select, we need to also provide the table name from where we want to select them using dot. We can specify the column from the table, but in the column from the table we want to select the entry from. And then yeah, so then the syntax would be the same here from table then table name, and then join table. So then using joining, we simply join another table, and we use on condition on to then provide the key how we join two tables. So on condition, there should be only one field. You cannot, only one statement. So you cannot create like multiple and statements there. So there should be only one linkage. Yes, so it means that one field equals to one field from table 1 should be the same as another field from table 2. Yeah, so only one statement can be used here. And however, after that you can use where, and on where you can apply any conditions you want. Yeah, so one statement here and multiple statements, logical statements set by them by or and in where. And then all the other things should be the same. So that, for example, we have two tables, and then we can join them using IDs. Yeah, so ID of the table 2 of the table on the table. So it's this, sorry. To select okay. What is CTOT? One moment. What is CT? OT? Okay. Okay, yeah. So yeah, you can also, that is a little bit strange, what I don't really like, but this is how SQL statements are usually written, that you can actually specify the shorter name of the table. So in that case, that would be that I select from order T table, and then I name it as OT. So then OT can be used in all the places in the selection query. The same as about the table I'm joining with. So that would be customer table, and I name it as CT. Yeah, so then I use CT in all the other places in my code. So that means that this is the customer table. Yes, I just write a shorter name. I don't really like this approach, but this is how I do understand, because for some large queries it may be quite large to write it, and that's why it will then maybe be shorter if we use these shorter names. But that's up to you to decide. For such relatively small queries, we can use the full names, and that will be fine. And yeah, so the syntax is, as I said, select, we provide the columns we want to select. Of course, we also provide the table from where the column comes from. Then from the table, the linkage. Yeah, so it means that here we link. It means that ID from the table customer should match the owner value from the table from the table order T. Yeah. So then the condition, I add additional condition that first name should be honest and then the last name should be Berzing. So yeah, this is about queries. We will later on take a look on them. And yeah, so the last thing here is link. That is language integrated query. So that's the actual query language what we can use in C# in addition to SQL, and then to work with the in-memory objects. So database, XML documents, and maybe more. So it means that data is loaded in our C# program, and then from there we can call them. We can do some queries on such data. Yeah, mostly we talk about the collections there, and yeah, so then we are able to integrate the queries with link. Yes, so yeah, it was writing queries even without knowledge of query language like SQL, XML, and so on. And they can be written for diverse data types. So for example, that would be that we have the collection here of entries there. So we have all the entries, and then, so that's the array of entries, and then we can write the query is equal int. So in that case, I say that select from, actually from this that new words. Oh yeah, so from word and words. So the words is actually the collection I have. That's the array. I have then the words is the definition of the entry. So for each entry there, I said that the length should be less than 5, and then I select this word. Yeah, so then I actually use this, and then it will be selected, and then the result will be returned here, and I can then go through all the entries. But yeah, so we will take a look on this a little bit later. Do you have any questions? Okay, then let's maybe have 10 minutes break, and after the break we will continue. Okay, so let's continue. And right now we will, as planned, we will move to the introduction to basically how to set up my SQL server, and this will actually be taken uh, from moment. This will actually be taken from this file I shared with you today. So that will be from the practical assignments file. A moment, this one. So the first one we will skip right now. So maybe we'll take a look on it a little bit later. But first of all, what I want to discuss is the second point. So here you actually see the description of how you can set the environment for MySQL server. So in fact, you have multiple options how you can do it. So you can follow the settings, the setup here. So that will be fine. If you want, since for now, since I have the computer where I use different approach, so I don't want to mix my servers, my SQL database servers, because the thing is that you usually if you have one server, then first we don't need another server, and secondly, it may trigger some issues if you try to run if you try to run multiple servers at once at the same time, and that may be a little bit tricky and maybe not recommended. Yeah, that's why maybe I won't use the approach described here. You can do it. That's up to you. There will be no difference because the work with the database and with PHP my admin tool will be the same. But what I use, and I use basically for maybe for years, or maybe for years, I would say, is example. So that I'll maybe share the link with you then here. And yeah, so this is how it looks like. So you can install it on any environment you want. So this is mostly related to, not related, but this is mostly needed for the web development if you use PHP development. But so for database environment, this can be enough as well. So yeah, and the thing is that from here you can install it on your computer. Like if you have Windows or Mac OS, you can do it. So once you install it on your computer, so maybe hold on. Once you install and done all the setup, so then you can go to example, control panel, and from here you should now be able to see what you can actually run from here. So first of all, once you install, you will see the following thing on your computer. So you have your C or whatever disk you're working on, and then you have example folder. So from here you have multiple folders. So we are mostly interested in MySQL. So this is actually the folder where all the data for the database will be stored. So I mean, from the file perspective, it is stored here. And when we run example, we can run MySQL from here. So once we run MySQL from here, we can start it. Okay, it asks me. Yes, I accept. It's now, yeah. Now I can see that MySQL is running. Once it is done, it will occupy the port 3306. So it means that this is the actual port when you are where your database, MySQL database, is then located. Yes, so it means that you cannot run anything else on this port. And when you want to run it here, then the port should be free, not occupied. Yeah. So once it is done, so we will now see the MySQL running, and then I can go to localhost and I can write php myadmin. Okay, hold on, I also need to then run Apache as well. Okay, so I run Apache and now. Okay, so it's done, and now once I run them both, I can now access localhost and access php myadmin. So I will then also share this link then with you. Hold on, that will be here. My admin. And yeah, so means that now we have our local server. So in fact, the local server is located here, and from here we can actually host. Actually, right now we have our local host. So in fact, we can host our, let's say, maybe website or web application or wherever we want. So it means that from browser we can access this environment. And so if I type php myadmin, then from here I can access my environment for the database. Yeah, so now I have my so for the server where we can store the database. So this is how php myadmin looks like. So on the left I have the databases. Yeah, so I have the databases I can work with. So the plan is that maybe our lessons plan for now is that I will show you how we can, some small things, how we can proceed with the database creation here, and then then I will ask then you to install MySQL environment on your computer. Again, you can use the same tool example as I use. You can also use the MySQL as described here. So that's also up to you what you decide to do. I like example because I work with some PHP frameworks, so I needed to host my websites. Okay, so it is done, and right now let's start. So first we need to create the database. So here I press new, and then I write the name of the database. So let's say it will be demo, say demo.net maybe. And here now I have the database created. In fact, I can also write SQL query and then write it, then just execute it after that. But maybe let's start with simple creation. And right now I have database. I have database created. So the next step is that I create the database tables. So let's start with the first table. So let's say that would be the table person. And let's start with the columns. Yeah. So now I have the table, and now I can add the columns. So first of all, let's start with ID. So here I provide the type, which would be integer. Yeah, so that's ID type. I can also use another type if I want. Default will be, let's say, none. And I want to mark it as automatically incremented. So AI means that the value will be automatically incremented, and that's, say, this would be it. So what else can we trigger for the person? So it would be gender. So it would be character, just one character, just male, female, or unknown, or whatever it is. So it would be char, one, the other one would be one. So let's say that we can keep it as null. And what else we can do here? For name and surname, I'll use another table. So, let's say date of birth. Yeah. So that would be date. Yeah. And yes, so here I define it as primary. Then this will be primary key on the table. What else I can write here? Okay, I guess that can be fine for now. So I define database columns here. I press save, and now I have the database defined. Yeah. So I have the database, and from here I don't have just I don't have name surname. So for example, I can, maybe let's just not overcomplicate, let's also add name surname here, and then we'll work with table joining a little bit later. So just to modify the table, I can press on change, and here I can, oh, hold on, yeah, I can select the column, I can press change, but also I can simply add column, and here I'll add, let's say, name. So that would be, I can write it as text, I can put limitations. So let's say I want to put limitations. Let's say that the maximum length would be, that would be 40 characters for name. Okay, default will be, say, no default. So now I added one column. And then let's also add one more column. Surname. Now also let's add limitations. And here we go. Okay, so now it is done. Now it's done. I have the table with 5 columns. The first one is ID, then gender, date of birth, name, and surname. Okay, so this is the first step. Next step is that I want to insert new entries there. So to insert new entries, I can again go to insert here and then provide the values there. So let's say that that will be just a female, date of birth. So then I can select date of birth from here. It's quite strange. Okay, so I can type manually. So what would be something like this maybe. So then the name would be, let's add some names here. Let's press go. Okay, and in fact, yeah, so in fact it simply executes the insertion query. So we simply we have written it in this interface view. On practice, we can also do it using insertion query. So then, yes, we can see that the entry is already here. But in fact, we can execute SQL query and then modify the entry from here. So let's add the second entry using SQL query. So in this case, I have this insert into, and I have this table name. And yeah, one more thing, you can see that there are the quotation marks used here. This is just to use them as escape characters. So in fact, I can skip using them. So that's maybe not so important here. And just in case you want, you can use. But that's mostly for escape characters if we have spaces somewhere. But I recommend not using spaces to not have such issues. And then in that case you want me to use the quotation marks then. So and here I can modify this selection query or insertion query. So let it be so let's change the values here. And so yeah, if I provide ID as null, then it means that it will be. I can also skip providing the ID here. So and then this will be automatically incremented. Then. Oh, why did I say that? Yeah, this base which was female, but anyway, but yeah, we can also modify it. So then I execute this insertion query, and I can see that now the entry is here. So if I want to modify, I can press edit, then modify it from here. And then I can also do the same using SQL query. And so then I can press update, and then I can provide the values. So I don't want to change ID. Where ID equals 1, so I want to modify it by setting the say date of birth to be. So let's say that would be something like this. So let's see. Okay, so the query is correct. And now the entry will be updated here. Yeah. So basically, as I said, everything can be done using the queries. So let's just execute the queries one by one, what we've gone through today. So let's start with table creation. Now, oh, hold on a second, simply split the screen. Okay, so I can split the screen and then execute, so I can select the level on which I want to execute the query, and let's say that let's simply copy paste this query. I paste it here, I execute it, and I now have new table created. So new table created with all the columns and settings provided here. Okay. So first name, last name, email, phone, and also the length of the columns is provided from here. Yeah. So good, this is done. Then let's execute the next one. So then delete the table, but I won't want to delete it. So let's say I simply describe it. And okay, describe is not. Hold on. Customer, of course. It's not customer. That's one customer. Okay. Just to be sure. So after that, it will show all the values there. And so not the values, but the definition of the table. Yeah. So in fact, everything what you can see here, this can all be done using by writing SQL queries. So the next step is that let's say we are in the field here. So I go to SQL, I execute this query, and then I'll see that the new column will be added here. So next one is I modify the definition of this column. So again, I execute it from here. And now I can see that the length of the column is changed. Right. So then I go next. I can delete it, delete this column. And then I execute alter table drop column. Yeah, drop means delete. Yeah, so it can also ask me if I really want to delete. Yes, I do want. And here we are. The column is deleted now. Right, so then I can also rename the table. Yeah, so it's about the table is renamed. Let's rename it back. So also possible. So. Yeah, about this one, this is most related to programming when we actually write the code in C#. So that will be the next step. We'll show a little bit later. Tomorrow, most likely. And then, yeah, so here, as I've shown you, we can insert the values. Table. Yes, I can run insert query. And then this will be done. Okay, so now I can see the entry. Entry is here. And so enter using the query. And we can enter multiple entries there. Run multiple queries. Yeah. So just in case you want to run multiple queries, so just separate them using semicolon and then write multiple queries. They all will be valid. And they'll be here. Yeah, if you want to select and show the entries, so you can press and browse. The same way you can also execute the query, select from customer, then you see the results. Yeah. So data editing, as I said, you can execute update. So yeah, so I set email for the customer with ID 1 to hold on, browse to yahoo.com. So then also delete. What I just said, I can press delete, I can write the query. So again, when I press delete, in fact, the query is executed. So this is actually an interface which helps you to work with the content and databases in general. Okay, maybe I'll not really focus on these queries. We'll maybe go through them a little bit later. Do you have any questions so far? Okay, then it's good. And okay, maybe we will not jump to complicated queries right now. So right now I want you to give the task. The task for you is to set up your MySQL environment, because otherwise if you don't set up it, you won't be able to work, you won't be able working with the database. Yeah, so for now, please install it in the way it is described here, or you download XAMPP as I just did it here. So from my point of view, XAMPP is easier way to do. Yeah, so I recommend using this. Maybe it's not needed in such functionality as it is meant for, but it is easy to install and also from my experience also easy to use. Yeah, so the task now, please install your MySQL environment and check if you can access your database and let me know about your results. Yeah, so once you finish or you have any struggles, let me know. And also maybe not to me, just to others, so we can see and discuss on the possible solutions. Okay, so now I can give you some time. Please install, because this is important point. So to install the MySQL, and then after that we can work with the database. So please do it. I'll give you, let's say, maybe 20-30 minutes. Yeah, and then just report me on your results. Okay? So I'll be here just in case any questions, let me know. And please then do the setup. Okay? Okay, so I see there's one issue phenomena. An example, but this, do you know what that means? Well, user account control. That's okay. That's actually means that so I can also share this with others. Yeah, that's because maybe you have some restrictions with the access in your system. I mean, your operating system. So maybe you are not administrator or something like that. So and it actually does not. Uh, it actually maybe does not allow you to write all the possible files. Yeah, in fact, you can see that it shows deactivate with ms config after this setup, if I'm not mistaken. Then I guess if what was it? Not sure, but it most likely means that you have some restrictions with your with some writing accesses in your operating system. So please maybe at this point try without doing any actions, and in case you have any troubles, then we can maybe see how to deactivate it. Okay. But at this point, yeah, there may be some restrictions set for your operating system. That depends. That mostly depends on what is set up. What's your setup in your computer? Yeah. Okay, another thing for Alina. So it looks like the looks like there's insufficient disk space. No. So do you have enough memory? Your enough space on your computer? Let me check it. Yeah. So maybe maybe you need to then delete something because otherwise that won't be possible to install new software. Yeah. Yeah, but that's normal thing, and just sometimes it happens. Yeah, you need to delete something old to install something new. So that's also maybe needed. Sorry. Yeah, sorry from Ellen, I cannot get DMG file failed all the time. Yeah, sorry, I didn't notice your message 3 minutes ago. So DMG file, what? So DMG file that is for, if I'm not mistaken, that's for macOS, isn't it? Oh yeah, okay. So just, um, hmm. I remember I installed it on Mac. So I cannot download it, or what's the problem? Well, I'll cancel it right now. But yeah, so cannot download, what's the issue? Okay, get archive, so I try to extract it and oh yeah, I guess I also did install it on Mac. I don't remember what was the procedure, but I guess not. There were no such issues with DMG file. So maybe later today or tomorrow I will check it on my macOS and how was it there. Yeah, just in case you still have the problem with your case, then maybe let me know separately later. I will check once I connect it to my macOS operating system. Okay, so good. Maria has done it. Yeah. So yeah, then yeah, from here you have actually the same what I have. So I guess you can also then need to run Apache there, and from here try to connect localhost PHP admin. Basically the link I shared. Yeah, so try to run Apache as well. The first one. So and then check that you can create. That you can access PHP admin. Yeah, so for those who finished, try to create your first database. Here, yeah, let it be test or just whatever it is. Yeah, so create your first database and also create your first table for those who finished. Yeah, so try to create it. First and so database you can do it the same as hold on, not this table. Yes, refresh. Yeah, so I guess that was the old one. Yeah, so try to execute, yeah, create database and try to execute the queries from .NET presentation, or also create tables manually. That's also fine. So check if it works fine for you. So how the progress goes for us, for you? I see that that Maria I guess already done, right? So everything is fine for her. What about others? So just any issues with the installation? Have you reached this PHP admin environment? So okay, maybe let's interesting questions. Okay, so flowing is good. So maybe let's have five more minutes, and then I will also show you one thing we'll need to have to then be able to integrate with C Sharp. So let's have 5 more minutes just for those who haven't done can make it, and then we'll move to the next steps. Yes. Please try to create the table. So just to see how it works from here. Yeah, so that's just for your for your just understanding for you, just for practice, yeah, that you that you know how it can work with PHP 9. Yeah. So meanwhile, I can maybe describe some more features what you can do. So you can, just in case you want to define the key which consists of multiple columns, then you can, so let's see, maybe let's write one more table, and then maybe just for you to understand that would be column 1, column 2, yeah, without any specific meaning here, yeah, just to show you. And so here I can define a primary key, I can select multiple columns, and then I can press on primary. Then I will have the situation when the primary key has comes from several columns. Yeah. So we have 2 columns, and these 2 columns are considered as primary key. So the chain of these 2 columns is considered as the primary key. Yeah, and actually on the top of each action you do, you can see there is the query. So it means that all the operation I currently done here can simply be done by executing this query in SQL. So I execute this query in SQL, then what the result will be the same as if I do the manual steps there. So what else I can do? So for the for working with the databases here, I would need to then also define the user accounts. In this case, for some reasons, I don't have the privileges to administrate, not sure why. But so here we also have the users. We will need to use from C#, yeah, from .NET application. We need to use them here, them. Yeah, so we need to have the authorization, and then to using the credentials from here, we can access the database and also have different privileges. So, yeah, this is what we can do. What else special we can have here? We can also define an index. So that is actually secondary key. Yeah, so that's not primary but secondary. And the thing is that it should also be unique but not primary. So maybe I will not really use it right now, just to not overcomplicate it here. But yeah, so this is what we can do. So what else? What else? Yeah, so I guess regarding more special things, we'll maybe go through them a little bit later. So right now, do you have any questions maybe on the setup? Okay, so I guess just in case you're having any troubles, let me know. So, and yeah, so before we start working, as just today, I want to maybe go through the setup, and then tomorrow we will be able to then start working on the actual code to work with the data there. But yeah, so first of all, to be able to, yeah, so what's the idea? The idea is simple, that from our application, from our code, from our program, we can access the database, and in fact, we we can execute all the queries on the database level from the code. Yeah, so it actually means that we have the code, we have the program, and from the program we can basically access our database and execute all the queries we want. Yeah, so again, everything is based on the queries, as you already may notice. Yeah, so all the things we can see here, all the things what we can change from here is done using using the queries, yeah, using SQL queries. And in fact, so the question may be, why can't we just simply execute these queries from other places, and not only from PHP admin? So that is also possible, and in fact we can also do it from the code. Yeah, we'll maybe do it tomorrow, not today. But so what I want to have today is that um, that for our particular project. So let's maybe define it here. So I'll define a new project here. So that would be, let's say, databases. So I call terminal. I go to the folder, and yeah, so let's create a new project from here. And yeah, and so for us to be able to work with the database, we actually need to use additional packages. So, and on practice, how you can add additional packages, so that is quite yeah, so first of all, just a quick look on what we have here. So we have this, our project main file, so that is XML file, actually XML style file. So in this case, that's XML databases CS project. So that is in fact, yeah, that's XML file, XML type file, and this is basically the core of our project where the main definition is stored. So here we actually can define new new packages. So it means that this would be the library was the code. Yeah, library was, oh, hold on, yeah, that is just my example. The library was yeah, was the set of classes we can use in our environment. So then to add, I would simply need to execute a command .NET add package. So if I'm not mistaken, and here I'll need to provide the package name. So in our case, we need to have MySQL connector. Yes, so if I'm not mistaken, yeah, that is correct. So do we have any issues? So it's compatible. Okay, no issues here. Yeah, added. Okay, committing restore violating of file. Okay. Yeah, so seeing that we have no issues here. Let's see what do we have. Yeah, so now we can see that there is one more item group added, and I have this package. Yeah. So, and this is for all the packages. I simply need to run .NET added package, and then the package will be added. Okay. So that's the point. That's the point, and this is how we can add the packages. So, do you have any questions so far? Again, how is your installation going? So, have you installed example or MySQL? Okay, yes, so seeing that yeah, so why do we need this package? That's a good question. I will uh, um, so yeah, I will explain. So there's one question from Eva. Yeah, so that's fine. Yeah, so in case you're not able to finish the installation now, so then try it later, and so let me know if you need any help there. Because yeah, so that's fine. That's fine, Eva. Because yeah, because to be able to work with the database, you need to do this setup. And why do we need package? The package is needed for us to then be able uh, to connect to the database. So, and right now I can maybe do it. So we have more time today. So yeah, maybe let's start with the connection. Yeah. So we need, because otherwise we don't have the code to write. So we need to have the classes, actual APIs, yeah, to then work with our code. So yeah, so I will now show why do we need this package and how we can use it. So first of all, I will ask my program to use this MySQL connector. So now we have it. So, and let's try to establish the connection. So I can define the variable MySQL connection. So that's the type, again, that's the class name. Again, in the system, this class does not exist. It exists in this package, in this library, in my SQL connector. So, and from here I can then write the class that be my SQL connection. and then I create the object, and here I need to provide the string which will provide me the path to the database I want to connect to. So that would be, so I need to write data source, and the data source will be localhost, since I'm going from localhost. For my computer it's localhost, maybe for Mac it will be a little bit different, just try to check it. Then the database, here I need to provide the database name. So my database name is, so the one I created today is demo.net. Demo.net. So that's my database name. So user ID, I use root. So you can check it on the user privileges here. So to server, user accounts. Yeah, so I will use root and hostname localhost without any password. So I don't need to provide the password. And I guess that's it. That's it. I'll use that set colon at the end. And right now we define the connection. Oh, hold on, that's the variable name. Oh, no, hold on. Ah, that's not the variable name, sorry. Here's the variable name. Connection. So we define connection, and now we can open connection. Open connection and print that connection is with the server is established. Okay, so let's run the program. Let's see if the syntax is correct. Yeah. So now I can see the connection with the server is established. So at this point, we opened the connection with the server, and now we can actually access the data from there, from the server. Okay, so, and in fact, from now we can write some queries. So let's start with yeah, so maybe let's write one query. So that would be selection query. Selection query, I need to first create the command. So I maybe will use var. So and from here I will create new SQL command. So and then from here I'll write SQL query. So what would be that I'll simply select the whole table contents. So let it be table, say customer, and write the query. So let's select from customer, and then I need to provide the connection. There's the object. There's the command. And yeah, so now I can execute this command. So I can execute this command using my reader. Command, and that would be execute reader. So from here I'll get the reader, which will then allow me to read the data from the selection query. Okay, and how to read it? So that I will use the iterator, so that will be my reader. I will ask it to read, so then the next entry is right here. Yeah, so it will get the new entry, and from here we can now get the values. So what are the values we can see from here? So we have ID, first name, last name, email, phone. So okay, yeah. So sorry, there's a question from Eva. Uh, yeah. So for the final project, you can work alone. Yeah, as I said. Um, okay. Oh. Okay. Then I will then reply to you separately. So. Yeah. So, but yeah, just in case you want to work alone, then you can do it. Yeah. Yeah, so I'll reply you later. Yeah, so just maybe don't go personal with everyone. Yeah. So yeah, but just in case you want, you can work alone. Yeah, that's also fine. Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So here we go through all the entries. So here we go through all the entries, and so yeah, for each entry we can read the corresponding column. So we can read the corresponding column, and to then do it, I can do the following. Let's just print all the columns we have. So I will show later on. I will show you the way how we can do it, maybe more flexible way. But so right now we can read all the columns we have, so that we get. So yeah, and here we can provide the returning type of the. We can read corresponding column, and there we need to provide the type. So first of all, we have integers, so that I guess, if I'm not mistaken, get int32. That will be the first column. That's the ID. So that's the first column. Then I get the second column. It is first name. So that will be get string, if I'm not mistaken. So get string. That will be the second column. Of course, we need to add space in between. And then that would be first name, last name. Okay, and so then first name, last name. Then we have email and phone. So email, that's also the text, so that should also be the string. And then, so that's the email. And what else we have? We have phone. So the phone is also as text. Yeah. Okay, the question here, why do we need connection? So the connection is needed, so that's the actual destination of our connection, because in theory we may be connected with multiple servers, not only with our local host, but in fact we can also have the connection with, let's say, another server. And that's why we need to provide the information for the program from which server which connection I actually want to deal with. So that's why we provide it here. And so we open this connection, so it means that we establish the connection with our server. And then we pass it to here, so then I inform program that now we will be working with this particular, like in this case we have data source in the database. And let's also then get the string for the last two. I guess that will be it here, right? So let's check. So let's see if all the methods are correct. Okay, index was out of range, so we see how many columns do we have? 1, 2, 3. Okay, we have 5 columns. Why did I have 6? So that is ID, name, surname. Oh, I guess we don't need the 5th one. Sorry, my fault. My fault. Let's run again. Yeah. So and now we actually printed all the entries we have. So yeah, that's maybe a little bit too fast. But yeah, so let's go one by one. Let's go one by one. So first we establish the connection. So we connect to our database, right? So at this point, so that's why I first we checked if we can establish the connection. And so once it is done, we can now work with our database 10. So first step is done. Then I just simply print that everything is fine, and yeah, then I create the command. The command is actually the query I want to execute. So once I create this command, I provide the connection. Yeah, the connection means that this is the object, the connection I linked, not linked, but I established the connection to. Okay, so that's the object, and that means that this query will be executed for this particular connection, which has this data source localhost and database demo.net and corresponding is ready. Because we may work with multiple data sources, we may work with multiple databases, so in that case, the connections will be different. Yeah, so that's why we need is to actually understand, to make the program understand on which connection I really want to work with here in this case. Yeah. So this is then executed here, not executed, created here, and then the next step is the reader. In this case, it is reader. In fact, it may be a little bit, it may be something different. And yeah, so for us to see what we can do. Some normal would maybe use Visual Studio, not called but simple Visual Studio, but okay, on the other hand we can simply Google it. So MySQL connection, then it will be the first link here, and from here we can see the hierarchy of our class here. So the hierarchy of the class here, and yeah, so from here I can see what are hold on. Let's put the screen here. You can see what are the methods I have. So first of all, I have the constructor, so I can provide the string to the constructor, and then I get the connection. I get the connection, and from here I can open the connection, and so I can navigate through the methods, and this will open the connection. You can also see the description if you want to navigate. So second I have this MySQL comment. I can also search for it. Yeah. So I can also search for it and see what is available here. So I can see the constructor, I can see the description of the constructor, yeah. So if I provide this or that, so then I have the command, and I can see what are the methods I can execute from this command. Okay, so here I can see the methods. So I'm interested in public methods. And yeah, so we have different execution types, because in this case we have reader. It means that we have to get something back from the database, because sometimes we can have the queries which do not require the return from the query to us. Yeah, because that can be insert query, update query, which do not require any update. Then do not require any feedback from the database. Yeah. Because and yeah, in that cases we would need to we can use something else. Okay? But if we have feedback, then we need to have the reader to actually then be able to read something. Yeah, so this is then done. Yeah, so I can call this method, so I can check it here, and from here I can see the result. The result would be, so here I can see what's the result. The result is MySQL data reader. So then I can see what are the methods available from here. So basically how it works here. So this is maybe quite not strict, but maybe not so obvious. So this works as the iterator. So for the collections, and especially for SQL collections like this, we can use read to actually move to the next entry. Yeah, so if we like we have reader, so it stores, let's say in this case it stores 3 rows, 3 entries. So then I execute read, and then it goes to the next entry. So it means that once read is executed, we are currently on one particular row. And once we are here, we can execute the corresponding methods to get the content of the column. Again, we have different content of different columns, so we may have integer content, we may have string content, and so in this case it depends on what's the type of the column, and then the corresponding method can be called. Yeah? So I call the corresponding method for integer, and then I provide the sequence of sequential position of the column. So that will be the column 0 and column 1, so that means that's column 0, and then the value is returned from here. Then that will be the string, so that's the second column, sequentially that's the second column, so that's the name, so I print it here. Then the third column, that's the surname, so I get it and print it here, and so on. Yeah. So the corresponding method can be called, and then this will return the entry. Yeah, and this is for all the rows. Then it will go to the next iteration. So it goes to the next one. And yeah, so read goes to the next entry, and in addition, it returns true or false. So it means that if it returns false, then the next entry does not exist. Yeah. So if it returns false, then it means that the next entry does not exist. Yeah? So that's the thing. That's the thing here. Okay, so maybe a little bit complicated for the first time. Do you have any questions about this? But yeah, this is basically the approach we can work with. So do you have any questions about this code? Again, maybe not as easy, but and yeah, so in this case we can see that we use lots of external classes. Yeah, so that were not written by us. Yeah, so we use the package, the library, and then all the classes are taken from there. Yeah, actually, if you want, you can simply take the type, control, and copy paste it in Google, and then get the description of the class there. And just any questions, let me know. Let's see, learning starting. Yeah, so by pair I will also then push the code. Connection strings, so I mean this one, yeah, because we need to provide the, we need to provide the data source, because otherwise the program will not understand which what's the destination you want to connect to. Yeah, because in this case again we just have one data server, but in theory we may have multiple, and in practice that may be multiple data servers. Yeah, in that case we want to specify which database it is, which server it is. And yeah, but in fact, I guess you can find many other APIs. Yeah, and then maybe the procedure may be different. But in fact, yeah, again, maybe that's not just like simple this string. It's maybe a little bit different, but you will still need to provide the local, provide the data source, provide the database. In fact, maybe database is also not really needed. Let me check. Because in theory you can provide the database then from the query. Let me check. This that's maybe this question. Yeah, we'll have the error on the selection, but let's see if we'll have the error on the oh yeah. So connection is still established, but in this case we would need to then add the database name. So then I will then comment this code, and we'll need to provide the database name here. Let's check how it works now. So what's the issue? Demo.net. Sorry, demo.net. My fault. Check now. Okay, let's go. And I guess right now it should work. Yeah, force fine. Yeah, so we can skip providing the database. So then I can say, so if the database is provided in the connection, if the end, this approach should be used if the database is not provided. Yeah. It's not provided. Yeah, so that's the point. But again, you still need to provide the data source and also the user, because that the authorization is needed here. Sign on, you need to sign on there. And again, in this case, you need to use string, I guess, if I'm not mistaken. So you can also check. So I usually use strings, that's fine, it works for me, so I don't need other approach. But let me check. I guess you can also set the values. Moment, let's check. So yes, you can also set the values from here. Okay, not sure, but yeah. So using the string, you can simply provide the data source and user ID, and then open the connection. Yeah, I usually use the string. That works fine for me. But I mean, in different APIs, in different so I guess MySQL connection. That's not the only library you can use. In fact, you can use other packages as well. So that's fine. So I work with MySQL connector. So just in case you want to. So I guess there are also another packages, another libraries in there. The logic may be a little bit different, but the main thing is that the data source and the user ID and the password should be provided. In this case, I don't have the password, so I skip it. But yeah, so then it may. Alright, so any more questions? We will cover it. So it's good. But yeah, so just Just in case you have more questions, let me know. We will go through, yeah, tomorrow, the goal for tomorrow is that we'll also go through some code examples with MySQL. Okay, do you have any questions about this? Okay, then if no questions, I guess, yeah, so please finish your setup with MySQL, just for you to be, because otherwise you can see that if the setup is not done, we cannot really not really proceed with the coding here. Okay, so really good. Then just in case you're having troubles with the setup, let me know, and then I can try to help you. And so yeah, then for today, guess we can finish. Just in case any questions, let me know, and then see you all tomorrow. Thank you. Have a nice evening. Bye.